expression, and there are those connoisseurs of the arts who can bring you the ideas of sharing, creativity, inclusivity, particularly at times where there hadn't been, and the inclusion. Oh, maybe you want to see tennis shoe designer Virgil Abloh or any of the other beautiful expressions of our culture housed. That's where Kristie Benson comes in play. She has us today from the High Arts Museum of Art. Welcome to A Seat at the Table. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, talk about what's going on in the arts area. How are we being invited to the party?
Well, we've been open now for a week and a half. We reopened to members and frontline workers on July the 7th, and that will continue through July 17th. And then we open to the general public on July 18th. So we're really excited to welcome members and frontline workers specifically back to the museum. We're excited about the general public coming to the museum. And we've heard nothing but great things from people who really just need a change of scenery outside of their house and walking around their neighborhood. So it's been nice to welcome everybody back.
All right. Gates of No Return. Tell me about that.
Pajo, it is a fantastic exhibition curated by Katie Jendelson. It is really about these fortresses, these Guyanan fortresses that were the last stop before people became enslaved and were taken to various destinations, whether it was European or whether it was to the United States. And so these fortresses are huge sculptures. They remind you eerily of doll houses, but definitely nothing to play with. And the exhibition really gives you a look at a lot of these places that held people, again, before they were enslaved.
It looks like that's one behind you, maybe.
No fortresses behind me.
I'm seeing it come up right now. I think it's behind you.
Ah, yes. Again, gorgeous exhibition, but very heavy content. I think it gives people really a lot to think about. And if you can really imagine, the fortresses are really about 3 feet tall. So they're very large in scale, even though the pictures really don't do them justice. And the names that you might have seen listed in the background, you can kind of see it here, are those folks that were, that avoided either enslavement or who may have, members of their family may have been enslaved. So it's really powerful exhibition. It gives you a lot of powerful information that you might not have otherwise had. And it connects this time period with how it may have shown up in Georgia and in the Atlanta area. So they really do a great job of pointing out different locations throughout the city that may have been impacted by enslaved people.
Heavy. May, it's really heavy.
It is very heavy, very serious topic, but very necessary, I think, for people to experience, and definitely gives people an opportunity to have some serious dialogue, not only with children and families, but really to some self-reflection about what this means to them, information that they may not have otherwise had. We've heard about the return to Africa, and a lot of that is about learning and enlightenment. And so if you weren't able to make that journey, this is a journey that you can make right here in Atlanta at the High Museum.
You know, when you think about this also allows those new narratives for our children and families, to those who've traced their roots, those who are thinking about how to address and share with their children, you know, that this isn't where your ancestors started.
Right.
And that you are connected to another continent. So let me walk you through the creativity of one of your cousins who has created this conversation for you to envelop and see yourself in.
Absolutely. Super powerful. Again, for us to extend the exhibition was important. It opened actually on February 29th. So it was only open about a week before the museum closed its doors because of COVID-19. And not many people got an opportunity to see it and to experience it. We have since put it online. So for those that are interested, they can see it virtually if they don't get an opportunity to come physically to the museum. But I would definitely encourage, if people have the appetite to get out and to see some really, really powerful work, that they come to the museum and experience it in person.
How would you describe the transformation of seeing something like this for those who haven't seen it? I mean, it's a beautiful heritage. You know, it's not small huts. It's not a Tarzan.
I think for me, the first really aha moment for me were the sculptures, and seeing them, again, the scale, the sheer size of them, and really thinking about, as a child, if I were to see this, it would look very much like something that's playful, right? Again, it reminds you of a dollhouse. And if any of us growing up have seen doll houses, this is a huge, very heavy sculpture. But for a child, I could see how it wouldn't necessarily compute. So I don't have children, but it made me think about, what would I say to my own children to explain that this is not something playful. And then as you move into the exhibition, the walls are navy blue. And so there is a lack of light in the exhibition, I think purposefully, because it is such, like we said, a heavy subject. But as you move through, again, you see these names, the last names on the wall, and you start to think about how that connects or might connect with who you are as a person. And I don't think most African American people are afforded the opportunity to trace their roots back to the very, very beginning, to know exactly where it all started and who they are connected to. For the longest time, I've been saying I want to write Dr. Henry Louis Gates because I'm interested in, I'm not a celebrity, but I would love for him to do that type of work so that I might know my own story. And so we talk about, you know, obviously there's 23andMe and there's these other ancestry and other, you know, routes that you can take to learn this information. But it does make you think, wow, you know, am I connected to one of the names that are listed? And these are not, you know, these are not names as we know them today. They would be names that are associated with Africa, right? So that's super important. And then you continue to move through the exhibition and you see this very powerful, large scale map that kind of shows you all the routes that would have been taken from the Gold Coast and from these fortresses, whether they were going to Europe or, like I said, whether they were coming to what is now the United States. And you see, again, the repeat patterns that were made from people going back and forth. and how people were really impacted by being enslaved. And there is an interactive, which now we've removed because you would have had to touch it, but there is a QR code that will allow you to do more information or, you know, research more if you're interested. And so there's also a video that people can take in that's within the exhibition. And so it really is powerful, and it really does make you kind of slow down and think about how it connects with you directly.
Connects with who?
Oh, connects with me as a Black person. I'm gonna say me. It definitely made me slow down and talk about and think about my connection.
Yeah, no, I was, our long pause was all about it. Okay, in that we are all recreating new narratives, obviously with Black Lives Matter, obviously with our heritage, obviously, baby, here is part of what you need to know, so you can't not know, and you don't have to start here, and there were gateways, and we're going to return, and you have a whole different narrative. So I think that's important that we find places like the High and applaud their inclusion, because it's been a minute since we would see a young sister sitting there at the seat, at least sharing a narrative and be, you know, not literally being somebody else, and literally having natural hair, and literally having bold, intelligent glasses, and literally representing a community, and being able to be honest about, you know, vision, and just describing it, you know. So I love that. What do you forecast as a new narrative for museums, period, as it relates to people of color?
Well, I hope they're paying attention. I mean, we're definitely seeing a reckoning, I think, within the museum industry, and people, I think, really starting to speak out about injustices that they've seen or that they've personally experienced. And I think that there has to be a reckoning with how you resolve a lot of those issues. And so it's not specific to the museum industry. We know that a lot of people are experiencing this, but I think it is important as we walk through the walls of museums that we see ourselves represented, whether you're Black, whether you're Indigenous, whether you're a person of color, that be represented on the walls, you know, related to the artwork, that be represented within the exhibition space. So what art is being presented to people and what artists are being elevated in that space for you to pay attention to, or for you to be able to go back and do more research on, or for you to get more information about those individuals. And so I think that's super important. And I think since I've gotten here, and I've been here for 3 years now, I've seen a transformation, not only a wanting to be a part of the community, an essential part of the community, which started back in 2005 when our new director, Rand Suffolk, came to the museum. But I think it's something that has continued to ensure that the community has access, again, that they're seeing themselves, that they feel welcome. And being from Atlanta, this is an important institution. So we need all of those things to continue, and we need it to be intentional. And I think that is where we are. That's where we plan to be. And we're going to continue to do this work. So you'll continue to see exhibitions like Virgil Abloh, like Pajo. As a matter of fact, in August, we opened Picture the Dream, which is an important picture book series that will be dedicated to children. And it's something that we have done now over the past 4 years. But it just so happens that this picture book series will really take you through civil rights through today. And I think that's going to be important for families who really don't know how to talk about a lot of the things that we are seeing happen across the country.
That's children's picture book? Or
it is a children's picture book, yes, called Picture the Dream. So there's illustrations. And while I think it's for children, I think adults are going to get just as much from this exhibition. It's in partnership with the Eric Carle Museum. Again, we've been doing this partnership for 4 years now. And so it just so happens that we chose this particular exhibition years ago, and it is timely for the current moment that we're in. So we're excited to have that. And then later this year, we have Dawu Bey, who is an African-American photographer, amazing photographer. And we also have Julie Moretu, who...
It's interesting. I saw Dawu's piece when I was in San Francisco for Soul of a Nation. I was there with a friend of mine, Wadsworth Gerald, and he and I were hanging out. And obviously I live in Atlanta and Chicago, so I see Dawu all the time, and his brother was a friend of mine. I'm not certain on the new stuff. I'm not sold. And I think that they need young voices like you. I'm not always happy with the slave narrative. I can think that some of us might just pander to that. So I was a little disturbed. I will say very candidly to you, because you're my sister. So I want us to kind of create. I'd rather him shoot you. Like I need to see. I don't want you to give them what they expect. I am good on those type of expectations. Like I don't. So I'm a little torn on that. I don't know if that's what he's bringing, but I've loved all of his other stuff. And I also think it's going to cause, and I think we need to talk to the MacArthur Fellows. Literally, we might have to come up with a new narrative to the type Black people you choose to pick. Because, we want people that aren't represented by the representatives that you know. So.
Definitely understandable. Well, I hope that you will come, that you will not only come for Pa Joe, but you'll come back for Dawu Bey, and you'll come back for Julie Moretu.
Well, I always go to see how I feel, because for me, it's not about me. It's not my art. So at that point, it's my brother's art. Right. And I can have literally I got enough rappers who are friends and jazz guys who are friends. So my jazz guys, I'm like, you really should listen to Robert Glasper just a little bit more, just a little bit. And he's like, you really think so? I'm like, your invitation to the universe might just increase. And so I'm going to take another look. I'm not sure what the body work was. Like I said, I was just hanging out in San Francisco, and they had some of his early works, and then they went to this. It was a little dark, and it was a little, so you and I can talk about that. But yeah, I'm always good for a nice art education and to hear the voices, and definitely I saw a church exhibit when I was in DC at a museum. So your brother always is going for a trip to see the creative voices of, I was at Miss SARS. I went and saw her stuff out at LACMA when I was out there for Christmas. Betty, Betty SARS.
Yes.
So I went to, and I'm sure y'all are friends. So, I was a little upset that y'all didn't get Soul of a Nation here. So.
Yeah, those schedules are made so far in advance, and we talk about that.
I was in London 2 years ago. I was
so far in advance. Yeah. And I think that we were definitely interested and weren't able to work it in because, again, if you're planning and you're kind of slotting things in based on the availability you have with exhibitions, I think the original time frame that they were planning to cut Soul of a Nation off did not work with the schedule that we had, and now they've extended it, and
who are you telling?
It's hard to work it in, but I do think that we're bringing some amazing dynamic work to Atlanta, and I definitely know that there are people, many people that have not been to the museum for whatever the reason may be, but I ask that they give it a chance, that they come. There's a lot of amazing artwork, and they do see themselves reflected in a lot of the work that is on the walls at the museum. So
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. I think your outreach is, we appreciate what you do with Rolling Out. We just got to figure out probably how to have talks like this so that people understand how to apply it. I mean, the
Absolutely.
only reason you love it is when you know how to apply it. And I think sometimes it's exchanges. I'd love to do an art exchange where you and I pull prints. There was a time when Romare Bearden was in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually pulled prints at a couple of people's houses. And so it's a different kind of effect. So maybe we can think that kind of way, get some young artists and old artists and share some one color prints and then let people take them away so that they feel and understand how to have them in their home. So, just some interesting ways, something that would give them a pause and a reminder inside their home. Because I think, everybody doesn't know that it brings a beautiful breath of life to your child when they can see something at the scale that wouldn't be in their house.
Right.
I mean, sometimes the scale, you think about the whole idea of having gates of no return that's 100 dollhouses that you wouldn't see made for you, but it's a heritage piece so that you can own and claim and understand that there is some transformation that could happen with you and your family. So I really love that.
Well, I'm excited for what's next. This is my first time being here, seat at the table. I'm excited about having the seat, and I hope that I continue to have a seat at the table. So if there's ever anything that you have a question about or anything that you want to talk about, I'm definitely here.
Well, I think we just increased the conversation, increased the culture. We have a conference that's coming up soon, Rolling Out Innovation, Digital Entertainment. And so we probably should discuss that. I think a lot of people don't understand how to apply. I mean, and then some, maybe it's even, family date night. So it's not so romantic as much as it is just getting the culture or a meet me there and actually get influences. Because we've done this with some of our other clients. We just do meet me there. And we actually socially have people meet. We've done it at Essence. We've done it at BET. We've done it with a couple of the museums in Chicago where we just meet me there. And we actually, the social person gets people to meet them there, actually takes pictures with them. They actually get to experience the museum. But it brings a different group. And then they put it on their list of things to do. Because some of them don't know that you have educational programming for their children.
Right.
So you just have to work on it. But you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. I am Munson Steed, and we have had a wonderful time talking about it. Kristie Benson, you are a superior individual. We love you. Thanks for continuing to be a bright light and continue to be part of the inclusivity at the museum world. So I know you're going high places and you're at the high. So see you soon.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Peace.